Did you know that there are 2 zones in World of Warcraft Classic that have 0 flight path access for anybody, be they Horde or Alliance? 2 places that seem distant and afar compared to their neighboring zones that are very easily accessible. The first one of these 2 places, if you haven't already guessed them both, is Deadwind Pass. This terrifying corner of the Eastern Kingdoms is the home of Karazhan, ogres, and a series of tall mountains that make anybody passing through it immediately want to get out and flee to safer corners of Azeroth. But this zone, despite its terror and its ambience, it has 0 quests in it. There is no reason to go here at all in Classic WoW other than to admire Karazhan, which I do find quite fascinating, but this video is not about Deadwind Pass. It's about Classic WoW's other out-of-reach territory, a zone that, at least for me, has always had a sort of unique tone compared to the other places that surround it. Are you done guessing? Well, today, I want to talk to you all about the Alterac Mountains, the forgotten zone of Classic WoW. When I was younger, first making my way through Hillsbrad Foothills attempting to quest in this world PvP infested zone, the Alterac Mountains loomed overhead, almost beckoning me to explore them. And after turning in a few quests in Terran Mill one day, I looked north and thought to myself, well, why not? I had a few quests that were telling me to venture into those snowy mountains. They were red quests and elite quests, however, but I figured I would just avoid any elite NPCs that I would encounter in my adventure, but little did I realize what my younger self was about to discover. Alterac Mountains is a curious zone in Classic WoW in that many quests in Hillsbrad Foothills will take you up into this corner of the Eastern Kingdoms, and yet there is no established hubs for either Horde or Alliance to take shelter in. Alterac Mountains is the ruin of the Kingdom of Alterac, and it genuinely feels that way with all of its decaying walls and buildings and snowy emptiness that decorates the land. My first trek into the Alterac Mountains, well, it didn't really go exactly how I expected. I went north and immediately I was surrounded by ogres far higher level than I was. They were like a wall that immediately said, "You do not belong here." Yet my love of exploration and of snowy mountain peaks made me want to explore all the more. Maybe you'll laugh, but perhaps like in the Fellowship of the Ring, I imagined myself in the high misty mountains, soon to be wading through snow while dodging terrible dangers that roamed those forgotten valleys and hills. Something about this place enchanted me, and I ventured on deeper, dodging the ogres as I went. And something that I found almost immediately that surprised me was a small, ruined village similar to Terran Mill that I had just departed from. And it seemed, at least from where I was at the time, that the ogres did not occupy this ruined little area of the mountains, so I was quick to flee in this direction. Now, my assumption was that this little village was the Horde hub in this zone, a sort of sister town to Terran Mill, but how wrong I was. Because immediately I was set upon by syndicate rogues, and this was my first exposure to this mysterious group who I intend to make a video on here soon. And the reason why is because I'd wager that most of WoW's player base, if they were asked, who are the syndicate, where did they come from, and what is their overall goal, they don't know the answer. Now, the syndicate, they forced me to flee from this village, but not before I caught sight of this location's name. And the words flashing on my screen would later be significant in my Warcraft journey, because this village was called Stronbrad. And if you've ever played Warcraft 3, it's one of the locations that Arthas visits in the human campaign early on. And I just discovered it in World of Warcraft. Now, at this point in my life, I had never played Warcraft 3. World of Warcraft was my very first ever Warcraft game, fun fact. But later on during TBC, when I did play Warcraft 3 for the first time, I did this part of the human campaign, and then I thought back to this village hidden atop the mountains, and I was struck by this immediate need to go back there and explore it in more depth. Because after all, Arthas Menethil had once tread here, and I loved retracing his footsteps in World of Warcraft. But little did I realize that my journey in the Alterac Mountains had just begun. I do want to pause here for 1 second just to say 2 things. First, I want to thank this channel's sponsor, Zygor, which is linked down below in the description. It's WoW's ultimate guide add-on if you want to get ahead in the game, and you can use code Nixxiom for 20% off if you want. And second, I wanted to tell you all that I am pleased to announce that we have just finished our Tales of Warcraft design recently. A new type of shirt is now available on the Nixxiom Corner store if you want to help support this sort of lore content here on the channel. Let me know what you all think of this design in the comment section down below, and now let's return to the journey. So after being attacked by a bunch of invisible Syndicate rogues, I ultimately had to flee north, away from Strombrad, and along the rim of the snowy area of Alterac's ruins. And it was there, dodging the Yetis and the ogres, that I soon discovered the ruins of a former kingdom. Alterac's capital, shattered by whatever force destroyed it. It laid silent in the snow, occupied by the ogres that wandered amongst the ruins. There's always been something about this particular place in WoW that's always captured my imagination too, especially when it's snowing in this zone. The former capital of a nation, high atop the frozen mountains, now occupied by a simple-minded enemy force that dig amongst what remains, looking for what food, scrap metal, and tools that still might be hidden in the snow and debris. I didn't know what Alterac was, I didn't know what happened here, but the visuals alone inspired me to learn more and to dig more into WoW's storyline. It's strange, this zone has always made me feel so far away from everything, especially as I stood atop the hills of Alterac's kingdom, looking down towards Fenris Isle and Lake Lordam below. Now sure, there is the Dalaran bubble that was present back in Classic WoW, the Orc internment camp just south of it, as well as the mysterious two houses alongside the lake in the north, but the ruins of Alterac and of Strombrad are the true heart of this zone, and when most think of Alterac Mountains, I would guess that these old towers and wandering ogres are what they immediately think of. And beyond that place, beyond the ruined capital, there was the green lowlands of the Alterac Mountains. Dalaran's bubble loomed in the distance in those days, now replaced by a large crater. And there were even those homes that I mentioned earlier, located down near Lordam Lake, that I soon realized were also occupied by the same syndicate that ran me out of Strombrad. And I explored both all those years ago. First the homes near the lake edge, and then the ruins of Dalaran occupied by mages wandering with their stone elemental guardians. And I think it was as I passed through Dalaran on my undead mage at the time, dodging frost bolts and cougar claw stripes, that I realized something about World of Warcraft, or at least this area in WoW, that has still stayed with me to this day. I realized in this moment just how destroyed the North really was. It's not just the plague lands and the areas occupied by the Scourge. The capital city of Lordaeron and Tirisfal Glades, where I began my journey, that place is in ruins. Silverpine Forest, whatever it used to be, it's now just a haunted wood filled with worgen. Forsaken and Dalaran mages just trying to carve out a living amongst those haunted trees. You have Dalaran in ruins, hidden within a bubble. This Alterac kingdom also is in ruins. The Plague Lands, of course, they're the ultimate place of ruin, and even at one point, I had passed by Stromgard and Arathi, seeing that it too was a ruined capital of sorts. The north of the Eastern Kingdoms truly is a place of destruction. And it was in the exploring of Alterac Mountains that I got a vibe of an almost post-apocalyptic sense, yet in a fantasy setting. You have all these major cities and nations, they've all been destroyed. And there's these various small parties trying to survive amongst the rubble of it all, be they Ogre, Horde, Alliance, or whatever. And yes, there's small towns like South Shore and Airy Peak in the hinterlands that felt old and established and perhaps fortified either by mountains or simple distance from the conflicts that destroyed these kingdoms. But these places are few and far between. Most of the north of the Eastern Kingdoms is empty. It's survivors living on scraps, and maybe this is why I've always enjoyed this corner of Azeroth so much. A land that was once tamed and yet now has collapsed. And in my journey through the Alterac Mountains all those years ago, as I neared the end of it, I passed the Lordam internment camp, this small fortress that once housed Orcish prisoners by the Alliance. I knew that much about the lore at least. The Orcs, they were slaves for the most part, forced to live in terrible conditions by the Alliance of the North. Now for most people, I would assume when they think of the internment camps, they think of Lordam being the main culprit in this terrible treatment of the orcs. But here was a camp just outside of Dalaran. And well, I wondered how many orcs were used by the wizards of Dalaran back in the day as test subjects for experiments or as living targets to test out new ruinous spells. As I passed by that camp, and even today, I can only speculate. But this camp's close location to Dalaran, it doesn't really make that theory so impossible. And it's one that I've held ever since that day. All that time ago, I remember thinking about the orcs way afar in Orgrimmar, what they had escaped from as a people, and the home that they had built in a desert to escape this degree of oppression and persecution at the hands of humans, dwarves, gnomes, and high elves. And perhaps, for a moment, my rotten, forsaken heart pitied the poor greenskins. But I admit the empathy was short-lived, for Tirisfal Glades, Silverpine Forest, and beyond had hardened me into a loyalist to my people, the Forsaken. And I knew it was my responsibility to slaughter anyone that stood in our way, even our own allies, if need be. Pity for the orcs be damned. The last thing that I will say about the Alterac Mountains is something rather special about this zone. At least it was very special for me, and it's unknown to many in this game. It wasn't on the same day that I went on this adventure that I'm telling you all about, but sometime later, while exploring around these mountains yet again, I came face to face with my first dragon, Naralasands. He is a red drake that can be found in the mountains north of Hillsbrad. And when I first encountered this guy, I was stunned. I had heard of dragons in World of Warcraft before, but I had never seen one. And this elite drake, it almost suggested to me that perhaps the red dragonflight had some sort of a nest or a clutch nearby. And so I ran from this elite dragon, as I was in no way capable of slaying such a powerful enemy. But I remember after finding this drake, I went on a new adventure up into the Alterac Mountains and the surrounding areas looking for more dragons. I was a bit higher level at this point. I felt like I could do it. And because, who doesn't want to be like the Geet Beowulf or Siegfried and be remembered as a dragon slayer? Now, unfortunately, I will say that I wandered around for a while and I did not find any more drakes or dragon nests hidden up in the hills. But I did find the hideout of Ravenholt Manor in those days, a secret area for rogues in Classic WoW, which admittingly I never got to experience properly back in the day, as I never leveled a rogue in Classic WoW all those years ago. Regardless, discovering this little hidden corner of Azeroth, it really made me feel like a true adventurer. And I think that's something special about this zone that so few areas truly capture in World of Warcraft. Alterac Mountains and my exploration of it, it's just a really fond memory of mine when it comes to my days playing WoW back when I was younger. It was a zone that truly made me appreciate the scale of the world and its history and its visual storytelling all the more. It enchanted me with its snowy peaks and the beautiful views atop the hills, and to this day, it remains one of my favorite out-of-the-way locations in WoW, and honestly, I'm kind of happy that Blizzard didn't put any Horde or Alliance towns or hubs in this zone, no flight paths, because it made the mountains feel far away. It made them feel foreboding and even terrifying as a low-level player. And perhaps maybe some of you guys feel the exact same way about this zone, maybe you don't. But I do appreciate you all listening to my little reflection on this forgotten corner of Azeroth, and I'm really looking forward to making some videos for you all here soon, highlighting some of the quests from not only Hillsbrad Foothills, but Alterac Mountains as well. A big shout out to the channel members here on Nixxiom. Do not forget to check out the new Tales of Warcraft shirt over in the merch store if you want to help support more lore content here on this channel. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I will see you all with my next video.